This is Gemara Metziah Daf Kuf Yud Aleph Baruch Hashem. The final home stretch of a long and lengthy Masechta B'Siyata D'Shmaya. About another week, and then we'll dive into the last of the three Babas, Baba Basra in Mirza Hashem. We're holding on the Mishnah on the bottom of Kuf Yud Amid Beis. Over here, we're going to conclude also a discussion that we've been having for many daf, kemat this whole parak, all about hamekabel sadim echaveiroi, leasing a field, and then we'll move on from there into the very important, every halacha is important, but very relevant halacha in paying workers on time, etc. Says the Mishnah, hamekabel sadim echaveiroi lishvua echad, someone leased a field for one shvua. And of course, we know that a shvua doesn't mean a week. In Lasha, in HaMishnah, it means a week of years, meaning 7 years. V'shiva me'os zuz, for 700 zuz. Hashviyas min haminyan, the shvita year is part of the minyan. Kiblaim and sheva shanim, b'sheva me'os. Let's say he leased a field for 700 zuz for 7 years. Ein shviyas min haminyan, and therefore he would get to the 8th year, because the 7th year you don't work the field due to Shemitah. And therefore, if you articulate it explicitly, 7 years for 700 zuz, year number 8 would be part of the minyan. Continues the Mishnah, Schir Yoim, Goive Kol Halayla. Someone has a day worker, he collects his wages all night, Schir Laila, Goive Kol Yoim, Schir Shais, Goive Kol Halayla. If you rented someone for a bunch of hours, then you have that night and the next day to pay. Schir Shabbos, if you hired, not rented someone, you hired someone for a week, Schir Chaydesh, a month, Schir Shana, a year, Schir Shvua, 7 years, Yatza Bayoim, if he finishes his work by day, Goive Kol Hayoim, he collects that day, Yatza Balayla, Goive Kol Halayla, V'chol Hayoim, then he gets the whole night and the whole day. And we'll see in the Gemara exactly what it's referring to. Actually, before we even get there, let's see Rashi. Rashi in the first white line speaks out, Sachir Shapulasa Liyayim Yoitzel Erev Goive Kol Halayla. Now Rashi explains and articulates, Kol Halayla Uzman Giviyas, the entire night at the time of collection, Beilin in Shavua, Shetino Chachamim, whether we're discussing the Shavua, the oath, the Chazal, or Metakin, Schir, Bizmana, Yunishba, V'noitel, that he's allowed to swear and take, Beilin in Sheina, Iver Allah, Mishom, Leisaval, Hashemesh. And it's a darai, so you have to pay on time. Mishom, Noitalin, Pula, Sachir, Itcha, Ad Boiker, you should never hold the wages until the morning. So says the Gemara, let's dive into where it does this halacha. Rashi already gives a little bit of an akdama. This halacha of paying workers on time. Tanu Rabbanan, says the Gemara, min ayin l'schir yaim shegoyve kol halayla tamalay mar lo salon pulas sachir tzchad bok. You shouldn't hold the wages until the morning. O min ayin l'schir layla shegoyve kol halayim. If you work tonight, he has the whole day to connection. Amar b'yom titei tzchar, you got to pay on that day. Ask the Gemara ve'ima ibcha. Maybe the opposite. Maybe if you work by day, you only have the day to collect, and if you work at night, you only have the night. Who says you have the next day? Explains the Gemara. You're only obligated to pay at the end. Therefore, it would be impossible to say that the schir yoim you'd have to pay that day. It's only obligated when the day ends. Tanu Rabbanan, continues the Gemara. Mimash 5 lines in the bottom. You should not hold the wages with you. Any idea? Do I not know that what shad boiker? That it means until the morning. Matam lemrad boiker malam. This teaches sheino iver elad boiker rishain bilvad. You only iver if you delay paying until the first morning. But after that, there's no further isser. The isser is to delay paying until the morning. You messed up, you're out. What about from that moment and onwards? You're not over on Baal Talin, but it's a different isser, says Rav. You're over on Baal Tisha, which is delaying payments. Amar Rav Yosef Maikra. Where do we see this in the pasuk? Quotes Rav Yosef, Al Taimar l'Reach v'Shayv Machar Atin v'Shevitcha. Should not tell someone else, go, come back tomorrow, I'll give you. When I have it, I'll give you. And that's a separate Isser, says the Gemara, of delaying payments. Tanu Rabbanan. So far we have two Isurim. We have Isser number one, not paying the night until the morning. And after that comes a separate Isser to delay paying a worker. Haimer lechaver, son who says his friend in the last line, say scharli payalim, go hire me workers. Shneimin over misham baltalin. Neither of them is over on baltalin. Zelafi shaloi sachran. This one because he didn't hire him, and the isra baltalin is davka on the employer, on the one that made the agreement. And the other guy, the one that did the hiring, the shliach. It's not his worker, so he can't be over. Says Mara, 1 second. On the second line of Kavit Aleph Amid Aleph. If when he told him, if the shliach said to the workers, your wages are on me, who cares that he's hiring for someone else? And who cares that he's not benefiting from his work? Lamaisa, he told the workers that he's obligated to pay them. Who? Titania, as we learned in the Brisa, let's say you hired a worker and you showed him someone else's field, so you didn't end up gaining from it. Still, you got to pay him. Why? Because you hired him. And then, then you could go to the other guy and you can say, listen, this guy worked in your field, you benefit, you have to pay me. But Lamaisa, you hired him, you obligated yourself, so it is your worker. Says the Gemara 6 lines down, what's the case? That's the reason why it's nishta, even there, it's floating in the middle. He said the Baal Bais is going to pay, but the Baal Bais never hired them. So in such a scenario, there can never be an Isser Baal Talin. Says the Gemara, a story to bring out this point. Yehuda bar Mereimer, Amle the Shamei, Zil Agli Pailim, go hire me workers, and tell them Baal Bais. Would hire workers for each other. Hanu Shukai de Surah, Lahavri Misham Baltalan. These in Surah, these market traders in Surah are not over. Made the other Dal Yema de Shuka Simichi. Am Misham Balteshe Vadayover. Says the Gemara, you're right. You're circumventing the problem of Baltalin because it's not your worker. But there still will be the Isser of Baal Tisha, of delaying paying someone who worked for you. And we continue 2 lines from the Y lines, quoting the next part of the Mishnah. Amarav, Schir Shais the Yoim, Goyve Kol Yoim, Schir Shais the Laila, Goyve Kol Laila. Ushmuel Amar, Schir Shais the Yoim, Goyve Kol Yoim. So machlekes Rav and Shmuel as to when precisely these workers get paid. Rav teaching us that a schir shais gets kol hayom and a shais to Laila. Shais to Yom gets kol hayom, shais to Laila gets kol Laila. Shmuel says no. Shais Delilah, that's the one case Shmuel's arguing, then you get extra time. Tanan, on the second line, asked the Gemara on the Shita of Rav, who said you get night for night and day for day. The price says explicitly you get the whole night and day to Yov to the Rav. Because Rav said you only get, if it's a Shais to Yom, you get Yom, Shais to Laila, you get Laila. There's never a case that you get both. Rav responds, let's study him, Katani. You got to split up the Mishnah. Say it says Yischer Shais your Goive. Says the Gemara, Yischer Shais the Yoim Rav word. Goive Kol Yoim, Yischer Shais the Laila, Goive Kol Laila. Yeah, a little bit of a dichoy. Yes, that's not what the Mishnah said. It says Rav, that's you have to tighten up the Mishnah. Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, Yischer Shabbos, Yischer Chodesh, Yischer Shana, Yischer Shavua. Someone rent something for a day, a week. Someone hires someone a year or 7 years. Again, A clear kasha and Rav? Because what do we see? We see Yaitza B'Layla, you get Kol Hayom V'Chol Layla V'Chol Hayom, like Shmuel. Amel Charav Tanoyi. Says Rav, I'm asking. You're right. It is a kasha. But it's a machlokes Tanoyim. Titania, we learned in Abraham, Yisas Chershois Tiyoyim. Goyve Kol Hayom Chershois Layla, Goyve Kol Layla. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon Aimer, Schashaytiyam Gavikolayam Vachusir, Shaytalai Gavikolai, Love Vicholayim. So to Machlaikas, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon. So says Rav, don't ask a kash on me. It's already a Machlaikas Tanoim. Mikan Amru, Kolaikai Vishchar, Sachir, Oiver, Behei Shemois. Anyone who holds back wages is over on 5 Shemai, says the Gemara. Halalu. Ve'asei. Quite a terrible situation. You get 5 lavim and 1 asay for not paying workers on time. Explains the Gemara Misham Bal Tashik Israecha. Number 1, you're holding back from your friend. Number 2, Misham Bal Tigzal, stealing. Number 3, Misham Bal Tashik. Schirani. Number 4, Misham Bal Talin Misham. Number 5, Yemtitin Scharai. Misham Loisavalav Hashemes. Hani Dika Biyamama. Says the Gemara, like a Belayla, Dika Belayla, like a Biyamama. These Surim at night don't apply by day, day do not apply by night. Says the Gemara, how can you get 5? From the Psukim, it's night or day, so you're never going to have a full 5. Amar Rav Chisda, I'm sorry, those who were looking, trying to see the Gemara, there it is. Amar Rav Chisda, Shem Schiras Ba'alma. No, Psukim just means the Shem Schiras Ba'al, the Brisa just means, you're right, you're never going to get all 5, but the Brisa just means that there are 5 applicable lavim to a case of withholding wages. Says the Gemara, says the Gemara, from the Psukim, there's clearly 2 different things. There's Oishek, there's holding back wages, and there's Gazel. Ask the Gemara, what's the difference? Amar Rav Chisda, lech v'shov, zehu Oishek. If the guy says, go, come back, you trade the guy a cup and you never pay him, that's oishik. That's holding back his wages. I have the money, I'm not giving it to you. So the difference is, are you just making him mishuga and pushing him off? That's oishik. If you actually have the money, you're not giving it to him. That's straight up gazel. Maskiv la Rav Sheisha, as Rav Sheisha says, oishik shechayv l'vatayra. Carbon, says that you're being kaifer, you're denying, so you're not just telling him lech v'shov. So how can you tell him that's what Aishik is? If he says I already paid you, that's called Aishik, but you didn't pay him. If he says I have, I don't want to give it to you, Zeu Gezel. Maskler Rabbi 1 second, Zeu Gezel Carbon, so this is not a case of Gezel. Because Gazel we see in the Brisa is Kfira, denying. Elam Rabbi Eloi Scharticha me Oilam. If he denies ever hiring him, that's Oishik. Nesativ L'cha, he says, I paid you already. That is Gazel. That is Gazel. Says the Gemara, let's go back to Rav Sheishes. Ule Rav Sheishes, Maishna Oishik Dikashalei, Maishna Gazel to Loikash. Rav Sheishik asked on Oishik, didn't ask him Gezel. Why not? Amr L'char, Rav Shishul responds, Gezel de Gazlei. Case of Gezel, someone who stole by not paying him, V'hadar Kafrei, and then denied owing him the money. Then there'll be a shvuah, and then you'll have a case of carbon. Why can't we say the same thing by Oishek? Why were you, Rav Shishis, bothered by Oishek? Says there was some level of haidar originally. Which we learn means he's holding it back what he owed the worker already once the guy made the claim. Rava says a new pshat, trying to figure out what's Aishik, what's Yazel, back and forth and back. Says Rava, they're the same thing. So why did the Torah give them 2 different names? Lav or Alav. Bishnei lavim. Continues the Mishnah on the bottom of Kaf Yud Aleph, Amid Aleph. Echad zachar adam v'echad zachar beima. Someone hires a person or an animal, v'echad zachar kelim. Yesh by mishom b'yoy mighty tin scharai. The day you should pay back. Yesh by mishom lo sulim pulas zachar etzchad biker. Don't hold back the wages. This is whether you hire a person or an animal. Emasai. What's the case? Bisman shetavai, when the worker wants to get paid, that's when there are these isurim. Loitavai, if the worker never asks for his money, eino ever love. There's no yisur. If the employer told him to go to a storekeeper to collect the money, or next to a money changer, again, eino ever love. It's not called you were over, cause you told him to go collect the wages. It was not on you anymore. Sacher bizmanoi nishma v'noitel. A worker makes a claim when he's owed the money, he could swear and collect. Over zmanoi, when the time passes, ino nishma v'noitel. Emish edim shetava, if he has edim that he came and he demanded the money, then bizmanoi is a nishma v'noitel. Ger taishav yishu bisham yomatitin scharai. A ger taishav, there is a din of on that day you have to pay his wages. There's no din of he should stay overnight with you until morning. That's by a ger taishav. So begins the Gemara. Who is the Tana of the Mishnah? Mani mas nisan. Says the Gemara, Lo Tanakama de Me'achacha of Rav Yehudi. It's not the Tanakacha nor Rav Yehuda. So who is it? Says the Gemara, Mahi. Firstly, what is this machlekes Tanakam Rav Yehuda that you're referring to? Titanya, we learned in a rice as we turn over to Kaf Yud Aleph Amid Beis. Says in the Torah, Me'achacha, you should not hold back the wages amongst your brothers. Me'achacha. From here we learn now, Pra'la Acherim. This excludes Acherim. A guy, Gerecha, what does that refer to? Zeger Sedek. Bisharecha, Zeichel Nevelois. So first to a Yid, but, or a Ger Teishav, excuse me, that eats Nevelois. Ein Liela Scharad. Minayim the rabbis, Behem of V'kelim, where do we see to include Behem of V'kelim? Tamlem Ba'aretcha, Kosher Ba'aretcha. V'kulam, Oivrim, B'chol HaShemois Halalu. And all of them, if one withholds payments from any of these, he's over in all of these isurim. Mikana amru. Echad schar adam, echad schar behema, echad schar kelim. Yesh v'yishem v'yotim schar. You have to pay on the right time. Yesh v'yisham, ba'atam bulasach. That's the Tanakam. Rav Yehuda Imer. Gerta Ishav Yesh v'yishem yomitit schar. Rav Yehuda v'yishem losalin. Behema v'kelim ein ba'ela misham ba'al tashrik. So Rav Yehuda splits up the isurim bilvad. So Mani, so says the Gemara, now we can answer, whom does our Mishnah go like? 10 lines down, the first one line is E. Tanakama de me'achecha, kasha ger taishav. Ger taishav is difficult, ger taishav is shver. Why? Because the Mishnah said there's no din of baltal to ger taishav, but Tanakama said it is. And he Rav Yosi, kasha b'im v'kelim, which the Mishnah said that there is, in which the Mishnah said that there is Baltalin, whereas both Baltalin and B'yomititza in Scharai by Be'im V'kelim Rav Yehuda argues. So Amar Rava, who is the Tana of the Mishnah? Haitana, Tana Dvei Yishmael. The Tana of our Mishnah is Tana Dvei Rav Yishmael. The Tana Dvei Rav Yishmael, Echad Schar Adam, V'echad Schar Be'ima, V'echad Schar Kelim, Yeshu Misham Yai, Moitite in Scharai. Umisham Laisalin, get Umisham Laisalin, Gertashi should be empty this Charai, Veimba Misham, Baal Talin, Mamish, like the Tan of our Mishnah, whom is our Mishnah, Tana Devei, Rabbi Yishmael. So now says the Gemara, let's go back. We quoted the Tanakama, we quoted Rabbi Yehuda. Let's understand the Rishita a little bit deeper. 20 lines down, the first one is Talin. My time of the Tanakama de Mechecha. Kamar schir schir, Rabbi Yehuda like Kamar schir schir. Says the Gemara, me he ended like Kamar schir schir v'kelim. Mishum yomitit schar nami nechayiv. Tini Rav Chananya, so why is it not beyond this char b'hem v'kelim? Because as Rav Chananya Amar Krav l'sevel of Hashemesh. Why not? Ki aniu mi she'ein umi she'ein ba'in lidei aniyos v'ashiros that's b'hem v'kelim. She'ein ba'in lidei aniyos v'ashiros. No such thing as aniyos and ashiros by b'hem v'kelim. Therefore, the Yisurim will not apply. Says the Gemara, okay, that's reviewed about Vatani Kama. Hai ki ani hu mayavid le, hu mibayle lahaktim ani la ashir, that one should pay back, says the Tanakama, first to ani, and then the ashir. Rav Yesi, Rav Yehuda, what does he say? Ahu, melostashik schir ani, v'evya nafka, he has different pasuk to teach us that thing. V'tanikama asks the Gemara, chad lahaktim ani la ashir, chad lahaktim ani la ashir, chad lahaktim ani le'evyoin, utzricha. We need all these cases. Tiash minon evyoin, I would have thought we should do a chasav lemitve. He's not embarrassed to claim it. Avalasha the chasav lemitve, malai. Maybe there is no isser in such a case. Maybe aim a lie. I would think that you don't give the poor person before him. It doesn't need it. Therefore, there'll be no to pay the ani before him. Therefore, we have to list all the cases. Says the Gemara. So that's the Tanakama. That's Rav Yisrael Yehuda. What about our Mishnah? About 20 lines from the wide lines. First one line is Sricha. Says the Gemara of Tana Didan. And the Tana of our Mishnah, what is he? Old man of Shachas, the Gemara. Iyal of Zachir Sachir. If you look at Taishav Nami, then even a Ger Taishav should be part of all the Yisurim. Iyal of Zachir Sachir, Bein Mekilim, Man Ele, where we know Bein Mekilim. Answers the Gemara, La'ilam, really Iyal of Zachir Sachir. And therefore, why is Bein Mekilim not included in everything? Vishani Asan, the Markra, V'lo Salin. Pula Sachir Itcha Ada Boiker. Kol Shapula Itcha. This means anyone, a rented item, anything that is with you is included. Says, well, 1 second. Yachavilu Gertaishav Nami. Should have the same halachas. No, it's excluded. Amakar Re'echa. Re'echa v'lo Gertaishav. Says, okay, Yachavilu Be'im V'kelim Nami. Be'im V'kelim should be excluded. Because again, Re'echa should include Be'im V'kelim, like it can include, I should exclude Be'im V'kelim, excuse me, like it excludes Gertaishav. Haksev Yitzcha. So classically, my rois, the rabbis Be'im V'kelim, lights in Gertaishav. How do you know which we're adding, which we're subtracting? Mistav Be'im V'kelim, avale the rabbis, kin yeshon bechlal, mamoin, re'ech, mamon re'ech. Gertaishav inim b'chal, mamon re'ech. And that's why, answers the Gemara, it's more mistaver to say that way. I'll stop over here. I'll pick it up from the Tanakama the next year. B'siyata dishmaya.